The fallout continues this morning from the resignation of now former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. And the age-old question in Washington, who knew what and when?
What strikes me is how bizarre the whole story is. This is a cover-up without a crime. The idea that one should be all aghast because the incoming National Security Advisor spoke with the Russian ambassador and spoke about sanctions seems to me to be perfectly reasonable. The idea that it was illegal is preposterous. When I hear Nancy Pelosi get all upset about this.
We have been asking for a more current briefing in light of current revelations. But suffice to say that we've been calling on the FBI to expedite its investigation into the financial, personal, and political ties of Donald Trump and the Trump administration to the Russians. When the president flirts with lifting the sanctions, and I'm glad that Steny Hoyer earlier today, perhaps you saw our distinguished whip, Mr. Hoyer, introduce a bill, bipartisan bill, to say that before the president can lift any sanctions on Russia, bless you, he has to confer with the Congress. Very important legislation.
Here's sort of the timeline, okay? In a February 8th interview, this is according to the Washington Post. In a February 8th interview with the Washington Post, Flynn categorically denied discussing sanctions with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, repeating public assertions made in January by top Trump officials. So Vice President Pence had said that Flynn never talked to Kislyak about sanctions, and so did Sean Spicer. One day after the interview, Flynn revised his account. He told the Washington Post through a spokesman he couldn't be certain the topic never came up. U.S. intelligence reports during the 2016 campaign showed Kislyak was in touch with Flynn, according to officials. Communications between the two continued after Trump's victory on November 8th, according to officials with access to intelligence reports on this matter. So Trump officials, including, as I say, Spicer and Vice President Pence, they had said the same thing to the media that Flynn had said, which is that he never talked sanctions. Now, would this have been a big deal even if he did talk sanctions? Again, I don't really see why it would.
You have a front seat right now to what amounts to a coup d'etat, palace coup or otherwise. What you are seeing is the deep state moving against the political tyro, the new pup, the brand new actor, Donald John Trump, POTUS 45. What you're seeing is what we in the biz, those of us in the conspiratorial world, us tinfoil hatters, we conspiracy theorists. No, strike that, as Gore Vidal said, conspiracy analysts. We've been talking about this for years. What you're seeing right now is a move to show Trump who's boss, and he is failing miserably. Flynn is his guy. Flynn did not break the law. Flynn did not lie. You want to get into, you want to talk about lying? You want to talk about this? We'll get to that in a moment. You've got Yates, you've got Ben Rhodes, you've got others leaking this information to the press. You're seeing, while Obama remains in this weird kind of a satellite government, maybe an outboard version of the deep state, what you're seeing is what we have been talking about forever.
I'm still not seeing this as bigger than Watergate.
Well, I mean, let's be clear about how this scandal has unfolded. When we first learned about it in July, it was just that the Russians had interfered in the election. It wasn't that they had helped Trump. And then we learned it was, in fact, that they did it to help Trump. But it wasn't that there was any communication between the Kremlin and the top aides. And then we learned that there was communication between the Kremlins and the top aides. So this is where we currently are in the story. And what we need to do is we need to find out more information, which is why we need an independent, transparent investigation that can start to get to the bottom of this.
Investigation, but there are Democrats talking about impeachment. I'm still not hearing Watergate. I want to make two quick points. Robbie Mook, the former Clinton campaign manager, was on CNN. I'm going to summarize it. He said there are parallels to Watergate, just as you have. It seems like talking points are going around. But CNN themselves, we have a full screen here, said, quote, Trump aides were in constant touch with senior Russian officials during the campaign, but officials emphasized that communications between campaign staff and representatives of foreign governments are not unusual, that this is not unusual. That's what CNN says. And then let's look at the list of what happened in Watergate. And then I'm going to give you as much time as you need.
Okay, because you're missing a piece.
Okay, a total of 69 people were charged with crimes. Crimes Act. 48 people and 20 corporations pleaded guilty. Some of those convicted were major players, the Attorney General, the White House counsel, dozens of people. We have a whole list on the screen there. So you have CNN saying it's not unusual for there to be communications between the campaign and foreign government, any campaign, number one. And number two, the New York Times themselves, in this screamer of a story, said today, there is no evidence of collusion. How is this Watergate?
What you are missing here is that they also said that what is unusual is the frequency of the contact, as well as the level of the aides, the seniority of the aides that was in communication with Russian intelligence agents. And let's remember that we are just at the beginning of this scandal that's unfolding. There have already been 3 resignations from the Donald Trump operation.
3 resignations
because of
General Flynn.
We have General Flynn. We have Paul Manafort, who because of his connection.
He said today that he spoke to one Russian official and that it's being exaggerated. He didn't resign over that.
Well, good thing this White House.
But hold on, you just said he resigned over this. He did not resign over that. He got pushed out of the campaign.
He absolutely resigned over it.
He didn't. He says he didn't. Who's the third one?
I'm sorry, but I'm going to press this point. Paul Manafort resigned amidst the FBI closing in on his communication and potential coordination with the Russians. That is a fact.
Here we are months later, and we haven't seen anything from the FBI Manafort. Maybe something will happen. Who's the third official? You said 3 officials
not
resigned.
True. And then there's Carter Page, who was a foreign policy advisor who resigned during the campaign after meeting with Russian officials who were under sanction, including the Russian official who was supposedly in charge of intelligence gathering on U.S. elections.
Okay, so I want to go back to something important you said a moment ago. You're throwing out all kinds of things. You're saying there should be an investigation.
But yes.
No, but you're saying it's bigger than Watergate, and there should be an investigation. There's already several congressional committees that are looking at this, including Republicans like Lindsey Graham, who's not exactly a friend of President Trump. But I want to make another important point. Democratic Congressman Earl Blumenauer today formed a panel to look at how to remove a president from office. And it said in part in The Hill today, Blumenauer said he became concerned about the amendment's potential shortcomings after growing worried over President Trump's behavior. He pointed to Trump's claim that there was sunny weather during his inauguration when, in fact, it rained. What is going on in the Democratic Party right now? If the president says it was sunny, but it actually rained, are you ready to remove him from office over that?
Our next guest says if we condemn Michael Flynn for this, then Jimmy Carter and Jesse Jackson should be sharing a jail cell. Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz joins me now. It's so great to have you on the show, sir. Can you explain to the viewer what you mean by Jimmy Carter and Jesse Jackson should be in a jail cell?
Jimmy Carter actually undercut American policy by advising Yasser Arafat not to accept the deal that was offered by President Clinton and Ehud Barak back in 2001. He has interfered more with American foreign policy than any other former president in history. Jesse Jackson, of course, has negotiated, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully, release of people in foreign countries that our administration couldn't successfully negotiate the release. The Logan Act is dead letter. It's only been applied once in 1803 to some farmer who wrote a letter, but it's never been applied. So Flynn has no legal problems. His problem is whether he, in fact, misled the vice president, whether or not he had the authority of the president to have that conversation. These are kind of internal problems within the administration, but he has no legal problem to be concerned about.
I'm tired of the if this were Obama line, but we're only tired of it because it's true. Look at Flynn. It's no Benghazi, IRS, or email scandal. He didn't lie to the American people about keeping their doctor. Yet you got a pack of dogs nipping at President Trump's heels, a pack who were silent during Obama's worst. It's adorable watching reporters freak out now after 8 years of hiding under their bunk beds.
Congressman, there is zero chance that we're going to move on until the answers to the questions that present itself at least get notice from the White House.
And welcome to day one of what is arguably the biggest presidential scandal involving a foreign government since Iran-Contra.
We have never taken seriously from the very beginning, Russia hacked our election. That was a 9/11 scale event. They attacked the core of our very democracy. That was a Pearl Harbor scale event.
Wait, how many people died from this Russian thing, you dope?